Hello. I've been kicked out of my office for video games, apparently, so here I am in a different pretend office in our house. Before I get into the lecture for today, I wanted to talk a little bit about your final project, which is an individual project. It's normally a group project, but because group projects are hard, especially in a remote world, and I don't know how good everyone is at emails, it is now an individual project. So in this video, I'm going to go over an example which I provided for you. All of this is in modules. At the very bottom, there's a whole bunch of scripts for you to review, and then there's a section that says final project. And then I'll place this video in there too, as well as in today's or tomorrow's lecture module. And there is also the description of the project, and then there's also the example, which we'll be going through, is in there as well. Before I go into what I want from you from the final project, I'm going to talk a little bit about just when you read a play. So a play is not meant to be read. It's meant to be performed, and you're reading it and you're reading dialogue. I find it helpful to read the play or a play with somebody else. I have homework. I have to read 2 to 3 plays a week for my classes, and my roommate and I read them together out loud, and it makes it easier. We find things. So if you, I don't know, maybe you're friends with a classmate, if you want to pick the same play and Zoom talk it out and read it together, that's super fun. Or if you want to read with a family member, that could be helpful. You don't have to do this, but just keep in mind a play is meant to be performed and not read. With that being said, let's talk a couple of other things about when you read a play. So things are going to be dramatic. We take one class with non-theater majors, and they get really, really mad at the characters, and they get mad at the playwrights, and they're like, "This isn't real. Why would people do this?" That's okay. It's a story. It's just like when you watch horror movies and you're like, why would she go and in Jeepers Creepers they dump the body in the well? Why would they turn around and go try to see what was up with that? Don't go look at the well. Don't go in the weird dark basement where it is living. Don't do these things, but it's a story. And if they didn't do those things, we wouldn't have a story. So if you find yourself getting mad and being like, these people aren't real, just yes. Keep in mind, these people aren't real, and they're most likely an exaggeration of somebody who is real. And here's some other things to keep in mind. And what the fourth wall is when you look into a stage, and a lot of times for living room plays, which means it takes place in a living room or one scene, you have 3 walls, but then, we as the audience are looking into that fourth wall. And so the actors play at us, but it's we're looking into their lives. This is also probably good for when you watch a play, for when you're doing your show evaluation. These kind of fall into the same category. So when essential questions dramatic criticism should address are, what is the artist trying to do? How well has the artist done it? And is it worth doing? And then I'm quickly going to go over Aristotle's Poetics, which are the 6 elements of drama. So we have plot, what is the story about? Character, who's doing the action, which these are in order the most important things that Aristotle thought. And just if you don't know, Aristotle is a philosopher, and he's credited to writing down the first ways to do theater correctly. There's thought, diction, spectacle, and song. There's the plot. Aristotle defined plot as a unified arrangement of incidents in which characters, meaning, language, visual elements come together to commit a single subject. In other words, the plot is what happens. The plot is the main story of the play. And the plot is made up of a series of actions. I don't remember what chapter, I think maybe in playwriting we're talking about how in plays or in any story, one thing happens, which then makes the next thing happen. So while you're trying to decipher the plot in the musical or the play that you watch for your show critique, or in the play that you read for your final project, think about what is the plot of the play and what are the incidents that lead into one another. These are some other just terms for you. There's the stasis and the intrusion. The stasis is motionless. The stasis is the beginning of the play. The stasis is a description of what the world of the play has been like in the recent past. The stasis is how the character of the world of the play would describe what normal looks like. So again, with Romeo and Juliet, the stasis would be that their families are feuding, and that's just the world. We don't ask why, because we don't need to know why. That's not what the play and this story that we're focusing on is. We can totally talk about, like, you can theorize all the time, but, like, that's the way of the world. That's how it is. And then the intrusion is the pushing, thrusting, or forcing in. For a play to begin, there must be an intrusion. We don't write entire plays about average, everyday, ho-hum events, the stasis. We write about a day where things were abnormal for one reason or another. So again, when you're reading your play, think about what is the event that happened that day that made everything come to life and get the ball rolling. Think about the given circumstances. The story of the play, the facts, the events, the time and place of the action, conditions of life, the actors and the director's interpretations. And these are the who, what, where, when, why. These are things the playwright gives you. So just look at your script, and since you don't have an actor or director, it's going to be you deciphering the whole thing for your project. Think about what are the clues the playwright's giving you, and I don't know, write those down. It's always helpful. Highlight them in your virtual copy of a script, and just think about it and like, how do those affect your character choice, your characters, your design? How does that affect everything? Exposition. Exposition is the revelation of necessary information which allows the audience to enjoy the play. Where does the play take place? In what time, era does the play take place? Who are these people and what is the relationship with one another? Exposition is mostly found near the beginning of the script. It's impossible for exposition to be found very late in the plot. And then types of exposition are information known to everyone on stage, like the time and place of the play, and then information known only to some of the characters. This next one is obvious. Stories are made up of characters. Character is about the personalities of the story. Characters are made up of motivations and action. Characters, just like people, will always act on what they want, but not always on what they need. They will prioritize their wants, just like people do. A character always acts on what they want in the moment, never trusts what a character says, only trusts what a character does. So characters have objectives. That's what they want. It's an objective. This is for dramatic intent. What does the character want? What is the character fighting for? What is the motivation for what they're fighting for or what they want? And what is your goal in the scene? So when you're thinking, not, I guess, what your goal in the scene would be if you're acting, but like think about in each scene, what is the character trying to do? And then we talked about it before, a super objective is what the character wants throughout the entire show, the through line. So Romeo and Juliet would be to be with one another. Be sure to cite for yourself who the protagonist is. The protagonist will always have the greatest want. They have the most at stake. They make choices that drive action of the play. They must make choices that will affect most, if not all, the other characters. They go through the greatest change, and they must be present at the climax of the story. The antagonists must also be present at the climax of the story. They stand in the way of what the protagonist getting what they want. And plays are about human relationships, not objects, themes, or ideas. Then we have thought, which is what the play means, the idea it's trying to communicate, its themes or message. If plot is a series of actions in the play, thought asks what the sum of those actions mean. For some plays, thought is a complicated philosophy. For others, it is a simple question or idea about the universal human condition. Usually the meaning of the play is implied, not stated directly. We have diction. Aristotle describes diction as modes of utterance. It is the dialogue used to create the thought, character, and plot. It is the playwright's mode of expressions, from beautiful rhyming couplets to guttural grunts. Diction comprises the human sounds that communicate the play. So what this means is like, if you read Shakespeare, there's a lot of poetry, but if you read more modern plays, they even write in the uhs, hms, like coughing sounds, laughter. What do all of those mean? The playwright's trying to tell you something by putting those in there. So think about that. It can help you shape what a character's feeling at that moment and what ideas might be going through their head. And then the last two things we'll talk about is spectacle, is the performance, set, costumes, and effects, the sensory aspect of the production. How do each of the visual and auditory elements of the play contribute to the performance? You probably won't see this when you're doing your final project because you're reading and you're creating it. But when you're watching for your play critique, think about what the spectacle is. And I think I mostly put musicals on there for you, or maybe they're all musicals. And musicals are spectacles because you have huge sets that move, you have pyrotechnics on stage, you have costumes changing like every 2 seconds or something. You don't have those things in small plays. So with musicals, which we're going to talk about today, our spectacle is a huge part for that. And then same with song, which is how do the musical elements of the play move the plot to its conclusion. And in a musical, that is basically every song is telling you a story and moving you forward. So for your final project, I put a straight up what I want PowerPoint that I made for you to you can do play-by-play basically. So let's jump into that. The first slide, obviously, needs to be the title. And I wrote comments in red. So please have a title of the play. I did What Would Crazy Horse Do? And then I have the author's name by Larissa Fasthorse. And then I put theatrical stage design by my name, just so I want your name on your project. I want you, because you read the play, give me a plot summary for this. Use your own words if you can. So here's my plot summary. I want a list of the characters. This description is listed at the beginning of most plays. If it's an older play like Romeo and Juliet, that's not in there. Shakespeare didn't give us that. So think about what you can make up your own. If it's like a Shakespeare play and it's not in the play, you can make up your own example of who you think these people are, who these characters are, but you should do it by what you read. So if in the play there's a line that says beautiful brunette, your character is a beautiful brunette. Don't make her blonde. And then I want you to cast the characters in your show. This is based on the description from the playwright, or again, if there is no description, the description that you find through the script. So I did, these are my characters. Then I want you to tell me what kind of theater or stage you would be in and tell me why. I chose a black box because it's a small cast and only has one set. I would like the show to be in an intimate setting. And then what is your design concept? This is an example. So like Romeo and Juliet in space, the importance of being earnest but steampunk. So what are you thinking and how would you like to see the play that you read produced? And then reasons for casting. That slide should totally be up higher. I'm going to move that right now. So tell me why you cast your characters. Like, why is that actor? Why do you think they are perfect for the role? Then I want you to do some dramaturgy. We talked about how dramaturgs kind of research the play and they know a lot about the play. The play I picked has a lot of Native American culture in it, which I didn't know anything about, so that was easy for me to pick. Your play might not, but it could be something. Last year somebody did, it was a modern play, but they were talking about, like one of the characters was depressed, and so they talked about the statistics of being depressed in like your early 20s. That was totally fine. Or his play, like it was college students and like how, so it was like, what are the different colleges? Like I'm from California and it was set in Berkeley, California, but like maybe you don't know what Berkeley, California is like. So he gave me a little history of like, what is Berkeley like? What is the college campus like? Who are the kind of kids? So like this research is just there to help you figure out more about the world of your play. So pick 2 topics. And I picked a lot. Again, my slide might be longer than your presentation, but you know, that can be up to you. So setting. So pick a setting for your play. Of the whole play, this is usually stated at the beginning of the play or close to it. Example, Romeo and Juliet is in Verona, but if you want to do it in space, that's what you wanted to do. And then I gave some pictures about it because they're set in South Dakota. And let me preface when I say you can make it wherever you want. Romeo and Juliet is really easy to put anywhere. This play, if it has a lot of historical context in it about a certain Native American tribe, I wouldn't put that somewhere else because everything is right about that community. So for this project, I want you to pick one scene. You just have to pick one scene and you have to design every aspect of it. Normally it would be doing the whole play with your other classmates, but I figured that would take a really, really long time for you to do every scene, and I don't want to be that mean. This will still take some time, but it won't take as much time. So I picked Act 1, Scene 2. So include that for me and describe a summary of what's happening in the scene. I want you to write down the stage directions, if there's the beginning stage directions, like when we did that croquet set lawn thing. If it's giving you a setting, write that down for me so I can see it and I can visualize what you're doing. I wrote other clues that I found from the script for this scene. So there's funeral food around, there's a board, she takes a folder out of her bag and hands a photo, there's a beaded medallion. So these are props and these are things that you can tell that might be around. Or it might describe what like the apartment looks like or it gives you clues. So let me know what those clues are. Then I put a picture of my set inspirations. We don't see the outside, but maybe we see a little bit of it in my set design. And then what I think it looks like on the inside. You can choose as many photos as you want. Totally make a collage. If you want to draw something for me, I had one guy who he loved doodling in class and he thought it was the best thing ever. So he drew me all of his sets. He didn't like color them in or anything, but that was fun for him. So if you want to hand do any of this, feel free, but we're just doing collages. Explain your research and design choices for the set. So after each page where you put your picture, I want you to give me a little explanation. And then here are my costumes. I didn't comment, but you would comment. Then I did my lighting. These are the type of lighting I would feel in the picture and my inspiration. It would be cool if you can find like some stage lighting of what your day lighting looks like or your whatever lighting. Mine is in the day. That would be nice. Explaining my research choices and then the props. So I want you to take a picture of all of the props or find a picture for every prop that is represented and you read in the script and just label it. And then I put some of my overall set dressing, which I thought would be in the background. And then here's some sounds. You can link me to sounds on YouTube if it's something specific, if you want transition music, if you have a vision, if there's underscoring, or you can just explain it to me. So the reason why this is posted now is because the rest of the semester we're basically going to be doing theater history. So you should theoretically have some of the tools to kind of design and figure out. You've learned some stuff. Remember to use what you've learned through the semester, or hopefully learn through the semester, to kind of help guide you. And remember to always trust the script and that there are clues in there for you and that you can it's subjective and you can make it whatever you want. Just, do a good job and have fun with it. But let me go over some of the plays so you can kind of get more of an idea of what there is that I put out there for you. So I labeled each of the plays to kind of tell you what kind of thing it is. So we have Waiting for Godot, which is a type of absurd theater. We're going to be learning about absurd theater in our theater history section. So maybe we do need some theater history in here. There's Medea, which is a classic Greek play. A Tale of Autumn, which is a new play. Something I need to tell you about new plays is that they can sometimes they have they have harder themes and they have easier to digest language than older plays, but it is dealing with stuff that we might deal with in our society today, and so it might be a little hard. I think we're going to add 2 more plays that I read this semester, and I now have the PDF of that I liked in my classes that I'm going to share with you. and they both are new plays. So just so you know, that's new plays are usually like that. We have Kiss, The Flick, which I've talked about, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, The Crucible, Hooded, You for Me for You, Fences, which is a classic play, Rock Creek Southern Gothic, Hashtag The Revolution, which is a new play, Hedda Gobbler, which is a classic play, I Call My Brothers, which is a new play, The Importance of Being Earnest, classic play, Little Shop of Horrors, which is a musical, Oedipus the King of Thebes, classic Greek play, Our Town, we've talked about it in our lecture, classic play, Streetcar Named Desire, I'm going to consider that a classic play, Tartuffe, classic plays but 1600s French, we'll be learning about Molière in our theater history section. The Bacchae, which is a classic Greek play, I have included a modern adaptation of it for you, so it's not as hard to read as a actual Greek, like Greek wording. And then The World of Extreme Happiness, kind of depressing, new play, and You Mean to Do Me Harm. I would look up all of these plays. You can Google and kind of get a synopsis and see if that interests you. Don't just randomly pick a play and then like hate it. Try to find something that you like. And then of course, you don't have to do any of these plays. It can be anything you want. If you have a play out there that you love that's not on here, totally feel free to pick it. And then I've included Shakespeare, but it's in the link to the description of your project because it's a website that has every single Shakespeare play. So feel free to do Shakespeare if you want.